By now, you already know it's the slap that was heard around the world and seen by multiple millions of people. Well, and if you haven't heard or if you haven't talked about it today at work or at home or at play or whatever the case may be, you must be living under a rock. Well, I just wanted to add an additional manna that I had this morning. This morning I talked about it, talked about the issue, of course, with Will Smith slapping Chris Rock and the Oscars on last night. And I shared it, and I want to come back at it. I can't let it go. It's still lingering, and maybe I should quit reading social media, but it's not just about that. I really want to address this issue even more, even though it has already been addressed, and I addressed it earlier in my morning manner. I want to add some more to that. So, good evening, Christopher. Good evening, Mike. Good evening, Pastor Moody. Good evening, Yvonne. Good evening to you all. I'm going to give it a moment so we can build our audience, and then we're going to talk about this. What did you think? Put your thoughts in the chat area. I want to just have a conversation about it. This is not just something that happened um, in Hollywood. This impacts so many because of some of the things I'm going to get into. And I just kind of want to just share my thoughts, additional thoughts to that. And it's been, people are coming at it in all kinds of ways. I want to come at it in a way that I hope will also add to the conversation, a positive addition, not a negative addition. So, what is your thoughts? What did you think? How did you feel about it? Did you see it? Have you seen it? Have you added, as we would say, your 2 cents, or whatever the case may be? This is life lessons. This is leadership lessons given to us from Will Smith and Chris Rock. I want us to just look at that just for a moment. I want to see what your thoughts are. Then I'm going to share my thoughts. Um, and it's going to be wide and varied, if you will. What are your thoughts about what took place? Do you think it was right? Do you think it was wrong? Do you think it was justified? Do you think it was, just something we need to ignore and move on? Put it in the chat area. What were your thoughts? Well, let me get right into what I think about it. We've talked about it from a variety of angles. Alopecia is one. The whole hair issue, if you will, with respect to Chris Rock making the comments about Jada being G.I. Joe, G.I. Jane, I'm sorry, and with respect to her cutting her hair and that kind of piece. I'm going to circle back and talk about that. We've talked about it with respect to mental illness and mental fatigue and mental illness and stress and snapping. We talked about it from a black man's point of view and a black woman's point of view. Talked about it from a cultural point of view. Talked about it from a faith based point of view. A lot of people talked about it with respect to Denzel saying to Will, hey, Satan will come at you at your highest point. Talked about it from a lot of different angles. I want to add some additional thoughts to that. Let's talk about the hair piece. Let's talk about the hair piece. There is an assumption that Will knew Jada's alopecia situation. Alopecia is a painful thing. Of course, that's not what I've experienced. Mine is by choice. I do remember, though, my sister, when she was in high school, in a stressful relationship, began to have that. And it was just unknown to us what was going on with her. And it was devastating to her. It was devastating to her self esteem. I've pastored young ladies that have dealt with that. One of the young ladies that I pastored in a very strong statement today, I was just so impressed with Paris. Oh my God. And sharing her life and sharing that side of her. Oh my God, took a lot of strength to do that. Great parenting as well, I have to add. But I've seen women who deal with that, and I've seen the fact that that whole issue is huge within our culture. Our women with their hair, and whether they're managing it well or however it looks at it, biblically we know that that is an issue. It's their crown, but that really isn't the issue. That really isn't the issue. Do a little research and you'll find that Chris Rock did a movie on hair. So is that really what was going after here? I'll leave that there. Then there's the whole piece of black men covering, using a spiritual term, a churchy term, covering our women or taking up for our women or being protective. I certainly believe in that. You're certainly not going to come at First Lady and not have me to react appropriately, though. Appropriately. I'll get to that even more. And that has been an issue. Then there's been the whole issue of black women left uncovered and having to fend for themselves. And here is this opportunity in which now black women are now covered in a very public way. That's one issue. Here is how I come at this whole thing. Here's how I come at it. I come at it from a black male leadership perspective. Let me say that again. I come at it from a black male leadership perspective. Let's put it in context. There's 7 pillars in society, commonly called business, government, religion, family, media, education, and culture. And black men have not always had leadership in any of those pillars of society. Those pillars we say push society. They are the foundation of society. Where here on last night were black men in position of leadership in 2 of the 7 pillars, media and culture. There was a black male producer, I am told, of the whole Oscars show. And then 2 black men in leadership. What do I mean by leadership? Anytime you stand in front of people and ask them to do anything or have any impact or influence on them, that's leadership. So here was 2 black men in leadership position in 2 of the 7 pillars in society, media and culture, or arts, if you will. One of them failed. I don't care how you put it. I don't care where it ends. One of them failed our culture, failed our community, flat out failed. Now, can we forgive? Absolutely, we can forgive. But we have to look at it for what it is. The premise of anything else other than here is the opportunity for us to lead and lead well, to have positive impact in the culture, in the community, in the world, failed. At the end of the day, if we want to talk about covering your woman, you got to talk about August. You got to talk about entanglement. You got to talk about putting all your business on a red table. It's your choice, of course. It's your choice. We all have choices. We live in America. We live in a free society and country. You can do what you want. But it comes with leadership. So you can't put everything out there and then get in a situation in which your buttons are pushed and you fail to lead yourself. You fail to lead yourself. And as a result, have impact on others in a negative way. You just can't. So yeah, I'm talking about Will. I'm not talking about Chris. I'm talking about the man who struck the violent moment. So often, black men, angry black men, that all we know how to do is to strike out. I experienced that when I was in the military. as an Air Force officer. Before I became a chaplain, I was a line officer, a staff type of an officer. And I remember always them coming at me with the fact that I was angry when I was really just demanding to be seen and heard. I was angry while my white peers were aggressive and assertive, and that's what was going to get them ahead. But I was angry. We've always been labeled that. So I look at Chris Rock, whose response was spot on. Oh, yeah, I know you're going to, Bishop, what about the joke? What about the joke? Well, let's put everything in context. This was the Oscars. Let's look at the fact that everybody was being jonesed on, everybody was being flamed on, and Chris Rock was doing his job. He's a comedian. Do you expect compliments from a comedian? I think not. I think not. I mean, so you can't now take issue with someone doing what they were paid to do. I'm not suggesting. Scripture tells us don't have all kinds of jokes that are insulting and offensive. We already know that. But let's look at it. They weren't in church, baby. They were in a situation in which it was entertainment. Now, back to what I was saying. You, when we are in a position of leadership, the first person we have to lead is ourselves. Black men, we're not always in position. Here are the 7 pillars again of society. Business, we're not always in leadership position in business. We're not always in leadership position in government, save for Barack. We're not always in leadership in religion. I'm talking about the overall religion. We are in the black church. We're not always in leadership position even in our own families with respect to what slavery did to us, and we got a lot of time to make up. We're not always in position of media. We're not always in position of leadership in education. But this time we were. And Will flunked. I'm sorry. Flunked. We cannot have a violent response because something comes our way we don't like. It just won't work. Violence always begets violence. And there we have a black man being violent toward another black man with billions of people watching. I want to say, if you really want to react, if there should have been some reaction, remember now, first, Will laughed at the same joke. Laughed at the same joke. So you can't then flip now. If anything, that's an internal matter. Don't then run at him, get upset with the fact that you too laughed. So, where do we go from here? What do we do about this? How do we manage even our own emotions? I think there's some lessons that we can learn. One, we should be even though they are very public people should not always make their private pain public. Let me say that again. Public people should not always make their private pain public. And to that end, we shouldn't always make our private pain public, because then triggers are easily set. Easily set. And you got to be mindful of that. I want to just leave with this. How about us learning from this moment? What do we learn? Well, there were some black men that stepped up and led. Tyler Perry, Denzel Washington, P. Diddy, Chris Rock. They led in that moment. They led. All is not lost. I wish Will would lead in this moment. You apologize to everybody but the person in which you inflicted your violent act on. That's where it starts. Because leadership is first leading yourself. and having some humility in the moment. Finally, let's just say this. I think we all can be prayerful about our community. Because I remember a day, some of you may not, but then some of you around my age probably do remember this phrase: be a credit to your race. Oh, I know it's old. I know it's even have a twinge of racism behind it or self hatred behind it. But I grew up remembering my parents always saying, son, be a credit to your race. We're always on display. Therefore, we are always required to be so much more and so much better than everybody else. Ask the new juries, Supreme Court Justice. They roasted her, but boy, didn't she come out on top. Let's be a credit. Let's be prayerful. And let's look at leading ourselves. And black men in particular, we can lead ourselves. We can pick it up, move from here, move further away from this situation. The Lord be with you today. His face shine upon you, give you peace. This bless you, bless somebody else. I want to hear from you. These are my thoughts. These are my thoughts. You probably have a different opinion altogether. And the wonderful thing that I like about social media, you can share your opinion without coming after anybody. Share this. I'll see you in the morning with more Morning Manna when we talk about how we need to be a credit to our race. Old school, but sometimes old school is what matters and what works. God bless you. Good night. Good evening. Bye now.